What you use, whatever you got there at the house this morning. Let's spend time focusing on Jesus. And I will highlight Compassion Sunday service with Teen Challenge Choir in Ron Brown, November 21st. Grab a flyer in the foyer. And we also have Christmas collaboration on Saturday, December 11th from 3 to 6 p.m. All right, that one's a big deal because we're getting all the churches together in our community and that gather in this building, and we're going to go crazy and we're going to make an extravagant big thing of Jesus together, and we need your presence to make it really beautiful, because that's what the church is. It's just a group of us connecting with the power of the Holy Spirit, and without us and the Holy Spirit, it's just the Holy Spirit. So we need us. So come on out to that, and we're going to go ahead. And we're also going to do Missions Sunday this morning, and we're excited about that. But let's just get into time of worship.
Good morning, guys. So I'm not usually like a revival is coming person, but revival's coming, guys. And I say that because I feel like there's an invitation this weekend and going forward to fall in love again. And to be encountered by the love of Jesus. And I was reading this verse this morning in John 16. The disciples are like, okay, we get it. You're God. We believe you. Like, everything you say is everything there is to know. And Jesus says, now you finally believe in me. And the time has come when you will all be scattered and each one of you will go your own way, leaving me alone. He's talking about when he goes to the cross. Yet I am never alone, for the Father is always with me. And everything I've taught you is so that the peace which is in me will be in you, and will give you great confidence as you rest in me. For in this unbelieving world you will experience trouble and sorrows, but you must be courageous. An alternate translation says, cheer up, which I love. I imagine Jesus like knowing he's going to the cross and looking at his beloved disciples and being like, cheer up, you must be courageous, for I have conquered the world.
Come on.
And in the next chapter, he prays for them and says, with deep love, I pray for my disciples. And I just feel like, what an incredible love to be within sight of the cross and be reassuring his followers. So today I want to extend the invitation to you guys that as you worship, let the face of Jesus come into your awareness and sing to him, and let him sing to you and experience his love. I really believe God is ready and waiting to do a work of revival, but that it's almost like dependent on how soaked we are, how saturated we are in his love. Like, he wants that to be the safety net around us. Does that make sense? Okay. So you're invited to experience afresh that fiery, beautiful, compassionate love.
Amen. I just invite you to stand with us this morning.
Yeah, as the Spirit was moving over the water, Spirit, come move over us. Come rest on us. Come rest on us. As the Spirit was moving over the water, Spirit, come move over us. Come rest on us. Yeah, come rest on us. Come down, rest under you. We let it all go. We surrender to you. As the Spirit was moving, as the Spirit was moving over the waters, Spirit, come move over us. Come rest on us. Come rest on us, God. Come rest on us. As the Spirit was moving over the waters, Spirit, come move over us. Oh, come rest on us. Yeah. Come rest on us. Come down. Spirit, when you move, you make my heart pound. When you feel the room, you're here and I know you are moving. I'm here and I know you will feel me. Come down. Spirit, when you move, you make my heart pound. When you feel the room, you're here and I know you are moving. I'm here and I know you will feel me. Oh, we know you will feel us, God. Oh, fire and wind, come and do it again. Fire and wind, come and do it again. Open up the gates and heaven on in. Come and rest on us. Hey, come and rest on us. We're singing fire and wind, come and do it again. Open up the gates and heaven on in. Come and rest on us. Hey, come and rest on us. Singing fire and wind, come and do it again. Open up the gates and heaven on in. Come and rest on us. Hey, come and rest on us. Sing, come down. Spirit, when you move, you make my heart pound. When you feel the room, you're here and I know you are moving. I'm here and I know you will feel me. Oh, we say we believe you will feel us. You're here right now, but you're coming closer. You're here right now, but you're coming closer. Yeah. Yeah. Holy Spirit, come rest on us. Oh, Holy Spirit, come rest on us. You're all we want. You're all we want. Yeah. Holy Spirit, come rest on us. You're all we want. Yeah, you're all we want. Holy Spirit, come rest on us. You're all we want. Oh, you're all we want. Yeah. Holy Spirit, come rest on us. You're all we want. Oh, you're all we want. Come down, sing, come down. Spirit, when you move, you make my heart pound. When you feel the room, you're here and I know you are moving. I'm here and I know you will feel me. Just right now, just take a deep breath. A deep breath of heaven. Jesus has brought it down through the cross. The veil is torn this morning. Take a deep breath of the Spirit of the living God. A deep breath of heaven. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. How he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Sing that again. He is jealous for me. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. Yeah, when all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves us so. Yeah, sing it, church. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us. How he loves us so. This is your anthem, City Gate. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Oh, how he loves. Oh, how he loves. We are his portion today. We are his portion, and he is our prize. Drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. And if grace is in ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven needs earth, so heaven needs earth like the sloppy wedges in my heart turns violently inside of my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets, and I think about the way he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yes, he does. Oh, how he loves, how he loves, how he loves. Yes, he loves us. He loves us. He loves us. Oh, the overwhelming. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, yeah. Hey. Your love is covering the earth, covering the earth. Your love is sweeping our souls. Yeah, you go to the lowest places. You reckless love of God. Oh, he chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. Oh, I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, you're coming after me. Oh, sing it again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Hey, there's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Oh, the sea, your love sweeps over our soul. Yeah, yeah. Let the spirit of love sweep over your soul. Sweep over your soul. The spirit of the cross, the spirit of Jesus, the spirit of God, your Father, His love. Just receive it right now. If it helps you, you can even put your hands in a receiving posture. And right now, holy, 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 holy love, holy love, holy love. Holy, holy love. Holy love. Rivers, 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 rivers of holy love. Holy love breaks in. Holy love tears in. Holy love takes up the gap. Holy, holy, holy love. Filling, 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 full, 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 overflow, overflow. Holy, holy love. Holy, holy love. And oh, the overwhelming, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me, fights till I'm found. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give and give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love. Wow. God is in this room this morning, and He is tearing it up with His love in a good way. Hey, be blessed this morning as we continue this service, and we're going into Mission Sunday.
Good morning. Good morning. This morning is Mission Sunday, but before we get started with that, I realized Veterans Day is this week. So if anyone has served in the military, could you just serve so we could honor you guys? Just give you a little clap. What did I say? Stand. Thank you. We honor you. I have 6. Can you serve? Sorry. I don't sleep anymore now that I had a baby, so my brain doesn't work. So thanks for having grace with me. Yeah, we just love you guys. We honor you and we thank you. Okay, so we're going to get started with our Mission Sunday service. This is something that we do every year. Every fall, we dedicate a service to missions and outreach. And every year is a little bit different. Last year, a lot of our normal outreach activities were on hold because of COVID. And so we talked more about just being on mission in your own family, in your own neighborhood. But this year, what I want to do is highlight the missions organizations that our church is partnering with. And so if you've been here for a while, this might just be a reminder for you. If you're new, this will be just letting you know how we're connected locally and around the world. But this church is connected to quite a few missions organizations, and it's good to just know who we're partnering with and what's going on so you can be praying and just aware of what's happening. So first of all, I want to let you know or remind you, at this church we have a fund that's designated specifically for missions. We really value outreach, and so with money that we're given, we always want to give back into the community and into outreach and missions around the world. That's really important to us. And so we try to be transparent with that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let you know what that looks like. Sometimes we have like one-time kind of special missions costs. So for example, if someone goes on a trip and needs help with airfare or money towards a missions trip, we might sponsor them and give to that. Or we'll give back to organizations that are doing great outreach things in our community. So Cody Miller shared his testimony a few months ago about how Teen Challenge radically changed his life and introduced him to Jesus, along with some people in this church coming alongside him and loving him. And so after we heard about all the great things Teen Challenge were doing, we wanted to give back to their work. And so we gave some back to Teen Challenge because they've helped raise Cody up, and now he's a blessing to us, and we want to pour back into them. So that's what some of the spending looks like. And then we also have 5 different organizations that we give to each month. And so I realize probably people aren't aware of that or maybe need a reminder of who those organizations are. So this morning is just dedicated to hearing about those different organizations and what's going on. So Cecile, if you want to show the first slide. The first organization we support regularly is Connect Africa. Trevor and Jana Taishan shared a few weeks ago. So these are some of our missions partners. We also support Timothy 2. Sandy Malo will be sharing in just a few moments about Timothy 2. And then we've got Sunday Supper here locally. Scott Paladichuk will share in a few about Sunday Supper. And then we have Arms of Love. Scott will share a bit about Arms of Love as well. And then Brenda's going to share about some of the sponsored children our church is connected to. And then lastly, Brian and I will share a little bit about Thrive Global, which we help run in Uganda. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to April. April, I put you on here too. April works for a public school, so that's not something that we support financially monthly, but April is for sure one of our church missionaries. She's amazing. She was named the Woman of the Year in Norway. She's done an amazing job connecting churches, mayors, pastors, schools, started freedom clubs in schools, so kids are learning the Bible in public schools in different clubs. So she's one of our missionaries that we love, and we're cheering you on, April. So I just didn't want to forget you, even though you're not sharing this morning. So first, since Trevor and Jana aren't here, I'll give a little quick update on Connect Africa. If you missed it a few weeks ago, or if you're new, I'll just briefly let you know kind of what they're doing. Some of you already know this, but Trevor and Jana lived in Uganda for many, many years, and what they do is teach local people different technologies. So They have these eco-sand toilets. They have biosand water filters, something called a rocket stove, interlocking brick systems where they use the mud and clay and they make these really sturdy buildings. So they teach people new technologies and then permaculture techniques, helping people learn agricultural practices that are different than some of the traditional practices, helping them really use the land to work for them. And they also teach people spiritually. They have leadership conferences where they share about Jesus. But it's good, sometimes people go to Africa or a developing nation and they just want to preach, but there's no practical skill with it. And so they try to do both. They equip people spiritually, but also with a practical skill that they can bring back to their village. So they empower leaders to be able to do that. So as they shared a few weeks ago when they were in town, their next step is actually starting a Connect America Center. So they're headed through a very circuitous route back to Alabama, visiting different friends. And they're going to be in Alabama for a while, starting this Connect America Center, where they will be equipping individuals and teams with some of these technologies in the U.S. so they can launch people from Alabama out to the nations with these practical skills to be able to teach different people. So we're excited for them, and if you missed the Sunday that they shared and you want to hear more, they're great storytellers and just have a lot of cool stuff to say. So they shared on October 17th. So if you missed it, check out the YouTube from the 17th, and you can hear more directly from Trevor and Jonna. So the next updates will be live and in person. So I'm going to call Sandy up here next. If you guys don't know Sandy, she and her husband Phil have been a part of the church for many years and were missions directors for years. Sandy and I used to work in the office together, and we would talk about our heart for Africa together. And Sandy was a huge cheerleader for me. When I went on my mission field, the church I had come from kind of laughed at me when I told them my dreams for missions and what I wanted to do with Jesus. And I met Sandy and Phil, and they said, "We believe in you. We totally believe God can do that." And they started cheering me on and helped launch me onto the field. So they're huge cheerleaders, and they support pastors and leaders all around the world with their organization, Timothy too. So Sandy's going to let us know more about that.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I don't know what slides you have. Do you have the first one that has just the Timothy 2? Okay. On the Timothy 2, our ministry is based on Timothy 2:2. It says, "And the things that you have both heard and seen of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who will be able to teach other also." And my dad founded this ministry 35 years ago, so I've been a part of this ministry for 35 years. That's why I'm old. But it's just an amazing ministry. We call it a threefold ministry because we have three parts to it. We have we call the ministry to the saints, where we have what we call our Mabuhay connection, and that's where we fix the boxes. There is where we pack the boxes here, and when you're here, it doesn't seem like you're doing much because you're just getting clothes and you're getting rice and you're getting toiletries, and it just doesn't seem like there's that much to do. But when you see the people on the other end and you see what's really happening, they're really thankful. And it's this next picture that you just put up. This church actually started from a Mabuhay box. The pastor took 2 boxes, went up a hill to like a remote area. They cooked rice, they opened the box, and they preached Jesus. And so many people came to the Lord that they had to start a church because there were no churches there. So sometimes if you might be sitting clothes or doing something little, know that God is just like the fish that could feed the multitude. He does amazing things with that. So don't ever underestimate what you're doing. So that's one of the things we do. And you can go to the next slide. And this is just some of the people just a few pictures. I love the one with the lady hugging her clothes. But they're very grateful and very thankful for this part of the vision. And if you go to the next slide, I'm trying to hurry. This is the part I'm most involved in. This is our messenger service. We have pastors from 10 different nations that we work with, 7 that are full-time with us. And it's basically encouraging pastors. And I talk to the pastors, some of them weekly, some of them daily, some of them monthly. But like the one on the far, where there's Mexico. He's from southern Mexico. This man, he was here in August. He's just wonderful, and all the things he does. And our pastor in Myanmar is actually in Yangon right now, where bombs are going off, and it's horrible because of the coup. And yet he's still continuing to do. He's doing Zoom and Facebook, and still giving to a refugee. He actually became a refugee so he could live in the Thai refugee camp that's on the Thai-Myanmar border. And he's just an amazing man. And the third one is David, who's our president now, and with Pastor Bert, he's our Timothy II director in the Philippines. The next slide. And this is Moses, and a lot of you know Moses. Don knows Moses, Caitlin knows Moses, and Moses has actually even been to the hub at Connect Africa. That's how connected the world is. I just love that. But he's just a precious young man that he just does everything. He has an orphanage, a church. He's just an amazing man. I can go to the next one. This is just some of the teaching and training. This lady over there, that's Emmy Kalek. She's a pastor and she's over 21 churches. And so you can see it's you can't see the people there, but there's 21 churches that they're teaching and training, and that was in 2018. Next, this is just some of the pastors. That's me with my director's wife. They were here in March 2020, but they had to hurry up and leave because of COVID. But anyway, I just wanted to speak a little bit about India right now. I'm trying to go. Okay, I got time. Yeah. Okay. In India, there's a thing called a conversion law, anti-conversion law, and I just got this week. He told me to please be praying for India because the pastors in southern India are being persecuted because you can't use deception, which is fine. You can't use, any kind of tactics that seem unseemly, which is fine. But they're now saying you can't use any kind of influence. So anybody that's giving to the poor, which all pastors that are doing the right thing do, or that you might be, helping somebody in some way, now they're coming down on pastors that are actually just doing the work that God called them to do. And so please pray for India because they're getting their churches burned, and there's all kinds of things going on right now. The pastor in the middle, that's Herminio. Caitlin went with me to when we went to Mexico. But Herminio is just wonderful. He has 100 churches under him. He's just doing amazing work. And then the other pastor, that's Pastor Daniel that was here earlier. That's at a graduation. He has a Bible school for people in the remote areas of southern Mexico. Next slide. Okay, this is evangelism. The Bible says, go ye into all the world. And one of my favorite quotes that anybody that knows me has heard me say it. It's by Hudson Taylor. He was a missionary to China. And it says, the Great Commission is not an option to be considered. It's a command that needs to be obeyed. Yeah. And this is the first thing we did. That's the heart. You have to go out. You have to go preach the gospel. And you can go, next slide. That's David's preaching. And then we'll always make sure we go to the streets, to the villages. And I don't have pictures here, but we always told the pastors we have to go to the prisons and jails because that's important. And all of our pastors through 35 years that have gone and seen and done the things we do, they're now doing amazing ministries. And like the one that was doing some stuff in the jails, I wish I had the picture, but he just last month, he got an award for all the work he does in the Philippines, and he goes under moral recovery. All it is telling people about Jesus and then discipleship. But they're letting him in the prison. So we worked with him since he was 21, he's now 51. So it's just amazing to see what God does through the years. And then I think there's one last picture. This is Joan Betts. She started sharing the gospel through the arts. And I think she had some stuff in your old gallery. Yeah, Joan, they took, when they go to the churches, they've been taking painting canvases and paints and stuff like that and bringing people in, and that's been a way to do it. And then just recently she was at the Laguna Artifest. She had work there, and most of her work is Christian work, so she gets to show the gospel there. So that's just a little summary of what we do, but it's far bigger, but thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing, Sandy. It's awesome all the stuff you guys are doing around the world. I'm going to call up Scott next. So Scott and Allison have been working with Sunday Supper for a lot of changes have having thrown their way with COVID, but they still creatively managed to feed people. And Allison's hiding, but we love her too. Scott can share.
Yeah, hi. For those that don't know me, I'm Scott Poladichuk, and I stand here representing my wife, Allison Poladichuk, as well. So if you don't know her, she's British. She doesn't like to have any of the spotlight. So I just refer to her as Aaron refers to his wife. So just keep that. If you don't know, then that's being said. So yes, I'm talking about Sunday Supper. This is a little background on Sunday Supper. Sunday Supper was birthed out of children's ministry. Fourth and fifth graders, the guy that I was teaching with at the time, we were talking about how we could get our kids involved in ministry. And at that time, we were like, we want our children to have hands-on, tangible impact into the kingdom. So I said, that's a great idea. Go out and find some opportunities. And he absolutely did and presented Sunday Supper as one of them. And it is communities coming together. And so we've been involved in this for over 10 years. And we started out with every other Sunday, and then during COVID, we've gone to the first Sunday of every other month. And then we've also now gone to the first Sunday of every month due to COVID. And now we're back to, given that another church has come back due to, they had high-risk populations, so now they're feeling comfortable. We're back to the first Sunday of every other month. So you can just remember Super Bowl, and then every other month from there. So Sunday Supper is an outreach in the Tustin community. We are a partner of 5 different congregations, and I list those up there. We have Aldersgate Methodist, St. Paul's Episcopal. We have a Jewish congregation too as well, Benai, and we also have Unity Trinity and ourselves. And so it is a cross-section, and we are effective because of that. We don't let the church walls separate us. When we all come together, it is the love of Christ that is flowing through us, and the love of God as well. So, and every Sunday, we have not missed serving the community. Due to the participation of all these communities. So it has changed a little bit. So for those who didn't know, we used to serve a hot meal. So these are some of our highlights that we have right now. We have, we serve a meal, groceries, fresh produce, bread, for about an average of 130 people at need. Now these can be families with children, men, women living on the streets. These could just be people living in their cars. These could just be families that are just trying to stretch their current monthly budget. So it is a cross-section. And we refer to them as our guests, because anytime that we have this with the children that we were doing it, with my soccer team, with the people, I said, I want people to feel as if they're coming into my house, to my party, and I just don't have room to host them all. And so they're going to be here. That's how they should feel. They should never feel as they're taking a handout. They're here getting need. This should be a ministry where they feel they have the dignity and the respect of those individuals. And I can promise and tell you, there's not been one example, been doing this over 10 years, where somebody has tried to pull me aside and tried to go put one over on me, as you know that they do. You know, a lot of people on the streets, they will have a story, they can convince you of all the things. They respect and love this ministry, that they go and they like, I don't need to tell you the story, I'm going to give you the truth. And as a result of that, ministry really occurs there. So there was a big change. We no longer could serve a hot meal, so we went to going ahead and providing a bagged lunch. But in that, we served over 10,000 servings over this COVID period. Wow. So we've also distributed, through the generosity of all the congregations, over 7,500 gift cards in amounts of 10 to 25, either to groceries or to restaurants, with over $82,000 provided directly, hands-on, into the community. Okay, and that is like, that goes from one to the other. So you know, if you've donated a gift card here, it has gone straight into the hand of somebody that's at need. And when they've told me thank you, recognize that appreciation is being received on behalf of this congregation. All holidays are covered as well. So we did Easter, where we did Easter eggs, where we had scriptures placed inside, and then we put some gift cards of different amounts in there, and they would go for a grab bag, and we tried to make it fun. Who's here has ever been to the Sunday Supper Super Bowl party? Yes, I've got lots of volunteers here that have been or participated there. That is a highlight of the Sunday Supper for a lot of our guests, because they're like, you would throw a party for us? And it's like, yes, that's the love of Christ. So anyways, and the new thing that's just shown up too as well is that we're partnering with OC Family Promise of OC, and they do hot showers for our homeless guests right before Sunday Supper. So we have about 12 or 15 that are taking advantage of that, and they get a 15-minute warm shower. And so they bring a trailer in there, and that ministry is provided, and it's just a matter. So that's Sunday Supper. I just want to thank you for all of your contributions. Recognize that during COVID, we've been doing and working a skeleton crew. Here are some of the pictures here. We prepped lunches, we bagged groceries. Go ahead and do the next one. Yeah. We actually sponsor. You'll recognize that Paul's over there on my on the right there. We're back at St. Paul's now. They had a patio redone. We have a food pantry that we fill out of as well. As we get back to serving more, there will be a bigger need for volunteers coming out of this church. So as we get to serving suppers, because we have to prep a meal, we serve a meal, and we clean up after the meal. And so that will be more opportunity for us to be involved right now. Those are some of the gift cards that were donated and generously provided. So thank you guys for that the ministry. And I cannot do this. I'm the front man here, but my wife is the engine that drives this entire ministry, okay? She does not get enough credit for that. And then I'm just going to stand up here. I'm switching over here to Arms of Love. Arms of Love is a ministry that has the DNA, Vineyard DNA, all over it due to its founder, Robert Benson. So it was birthed in 1998, and the mission of the Arms of Love is to give abandoned children and abused children in Nicaragua and Philippines a home, a family, and a future. And that is the goal. And then in 2013, they expanded a bit, and they're now doing a community outreach as well to try to get those that are that most at risk and prevent them from like lack of education, trafficking, abuse, and abandonment as well in the community. But they also have like a home where these kids are actually raised by house parents and go through to the point where now they're doing a transition home, to now where they are going to college, to now where they're coming back into their communities and breaking the cycle of abuse and abandonment and poverty in their particular area. So we'll go to the next one here. Just a little background. Robert Benson is the founder, and he went on a mission trip down to Nicaragua in like 1998. And that was the nexus of this. And so I'm old school, come out of Vineyard Newport. So, I mean, you know, over 25 years. And when I was, we were sponsoring the first child from Arms of Love. And you're going to hear about that as well. But we would have his picture, and we would have a little can for kids to come and do their tithes and offerings. Jim knows what I'm talking about. So we have, so that's started all that ministry. And so, like I said, 2000, they took children. 2001, they did the Philippines home. That's how long we've been participating here. And we'll go to the next. And Citygate OC, we have been supporting this ministry in one way or another for over 20 years, either through children's sponsorships, infrastructure investments, ministry support, prayer. So here are some of our highlights for 2020. Nicaragua family grew 50%. They welcomed 16 new kids into their home. They have the community development program in Nicaragua grew by 40%. 13 children made a decision to publicly declare their commitment to Jesus and were baptized. A computer lab in the Philippines made it possible for the children to attend school online. You can only imagine worldwide the challenges that you had, and now to have things like in the Philippines where children could not go to school and how they were going to learn. There were children that were sharing a phone for getting all of their education on that one. And then all the children successfully finished their school year, and the music program that they were creating is fully implemented with a music room instruments, teachers, and community outreach. You'll see some of the pictures on that one. That is such a huge blessing for the rest of the community as well, because music is an unbelievable healer of abuse in a child, in an adult. It has a spiritual quality that just can go ahead and heal. And as a result of that, they are seeing huge improvements with their children's behavior and recovery as well. So we'll just show some of the pictures here. There's some of the computer labs, kids getting on there, and then the next one here is their music program. And they're teaching and learning and playing, and again, this is just an overview of the program. And in that, the sponsorship of the individual children, collectively or individually, continues. And right now I'm going to invite Brenda to talk about the church's ministry in children's sponsorship. So thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Brenda Ziak, and I head up the women's ministry here. And 9 years ago, Arms of Love came to our church, and they had a couple of the kids give their testimonies, and I was really touched by that. And afterwards, they had cards on the table of pictures of children that you could support monthly, and they're asking $35 a month to support a child. And I got this idea, this like little light bulb went off, and I was all excited. I'm like, I'm going to choose this girl, Giselle. She's the same age as my granddaughter, so I had a little heart thing going for her age. She was 9 years at the time, and I thought, I'm going to have the women's ministry support her, so that every time we got together for our Friday night meetings once a month, we passed a little bucket and we took up an offering, and the women have been so generous. So we have, there she is, beautiful Giselle. We started supporting her at 9 years old, and she just graduated, and she's 18 now. And we would get a letter a couple times a year about her. She was a high achiever. She always was getting really good grades and striving for the best. And the last letter, she said that she was on the worship team at her church. So that is just so precious. And she was very artistic in her letters. It was just really, really precious. And now she's moved on, and she's in the worship team. Yay, God. So this was one that was snatched out of poverty and possibly trafficking. So I'm very thankful that we were able to support her for 9 years. And now we have another one that we're supporting. Her name is Diana. And this Diana came just this year. So yeah, that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
Thanks. Okay, and now I'm going to share a little bit about Thrive Global, which is the nonprofit I have the privilege of operating. And Brian's going to help me out. He pawned our child off on somebody, but he'll be up here in a second. So Thrive Global started kind of taking shape in 2014-15 when I was living in Uganda. You can come up here, Brian. Living in an area called Soroti. And it started basically by just building relationship with local leaders and asking them what was the biggest need in their community and who are the most vulnerable members of their community. And so after dreaming, praying, meeting with lots of people, and working very hard, we got officially registered in 2018 as a nonprofit here in the US. And so if you want to go to the first slide, this is just a screenshot from our website. The mission is to shift vulnerable communities from surviving to thriving. Because when you're just in survival mode, you don't have the luxury of dreaming. But when you can actually start to dream and have hope for your future, that's when you know someone's really starting to thrive. And so that's the heart of what Thrive is, shifting these communities. And if you go to the next slide, each letter of Thrive stands for a different area where we do work. So it's teaching, healthcare, relationships, income generation, vital needs, and empowerment. And really, Thrive was founded on relationship. And so the next slide is one of the significant relationships that we have. This is my friend Stella Rose. She's become a friend of Dawn's as well. Stella Rose, we got introduced to her through her sister, Grace. Some of you know the story from a few years back, but Grace is an amazing woman. She used to take care of Stella, who was born blind. Their mother was also born blind, and so Grace would just kind of take care of everybody. Stella Rose was always willing to work hard and do whatever she could, but because of her disability, it was very challenging in a developing nation. And so Grace would take care of her, and a few years ago, Grace passed away from cancer way too young, and her dying wish basically was that we would take care of Stella Rose and that her basic needs would still be taken care of. So Pastor Robert, who's my Ugandan colleague, made that promise to Grace and said, we will take care of Stella. And so Dawn met her when we were, the team was in Uganda, and was touched by her story and said, I want our church to sponsor her and make sure that she's taken care of. And so our church has been doing that for the last several years. And she is so full of joy. Pastor Robert just sent me a video of her laughing and greeting me, and because of time I won't show it, but she's just an amazing, amazing woman.
Show it. Show it.
Oh, I don't have, it's like on my phone. Oh. Sorry. Another time. But Thrive really started with visiting people like Stella Rose and figuring out how we could care for them. But then it started to shift over time from just individuals to entire communities and sitting with community leaders. And so if you want to go to the next slide, our biggest project is a school. This was an empty plot of land with a mango tree where we used to sit under the tree and think, how are we going to do this? And it started with Pastor Robert's wife teaching a few kids under the mango tree, and now we have a school of almost 300 kids. Yeah. We've got 10 classrooms, and the most beautiful children. If you want to go to the next slide, this was during my last visit. They put down the partitions between some classrooms and stuck them all in one room for an assembly, and this is all the kids saying hi. But so what I've been doing since being back in the U.S. is running a teacher sponsorship program. I realize in Uganda there's a huge issue with the handout mentality and people saying, I need to find a rich white person for me to go to school. And that's really the way a lot of kids are taught to think. And so I decided to run a teacher sponsorship program where people would pay into a pool, and that would go into paying the salaries of the teachers to take the biggest financial burden of running a school off of the local people, but then would still require the parents to pay some sort of tuition so that they could be a part of the school and education and be empowered that they're not just getting a handout, but they're a part of something. And so we've partnered together with the Ugandan community to make this school a reality. Unfortunately, during COVID, the major lockdowns in Uganda have created real financial issues for people. I mean, they're already financially in such a place of hardship, and it's gotten worse. So many markets and places of work have been shut down. So no one has any extra. Like, people are literally starving to death in Uganda because of COVID. And so they've got their second pandemic of starvation on top of the first. So Brian and I decided that we were going to make sure that our teachers continued to be paid fully during COVID, even if the parents couldn't afford that extra little bit of tuition. And so Thrive has been covering the gaps, and that's part of what this church has been a part of, helping some of those gaps so that our teachers are still paid. And they've been going from house to house as our schools have been closed during the pandemic, but our teachers have gone from hut to hut, delivering lesson plans, teaching kids. And the marker of the success of the school is this huge national exam that the primary 7 students take each year. And it's a very difficult exam, and all of our students passed. So that's how I know our teachers are still working hard and doing a good job, even when I can't be there on the ground checking in. So I'm really proud of them. So our goal, this is where Brian's going to share, we really want to make things more self-sustainable. I heard from an old missionary that if you're a missionary, you should always be working yourself out of a job. So it shouldn't be just about fundraising forever, but we want to be creating self-sustaining projects that will go back to help support the school. And so Brian's very business-minded, and I'm not. So he has some ideas that he started this year, and he's going to share.
Excellent, thank you. I wanted to touch on the teacher salaries really fast. What's really cool, what we've done is during the COVID period, a lot of those schools that are shut down, they're not paying their teachers, and we thought we want to retain and maintain these high quality teachers, so we paid them through this period. and we pay them on a consistent basis. Jobs in Uganda, they typically don't. They're paid at the end of the month, I believe.
Sometimes they're just not paid at all.
And so it's a consistent income for these families. So it's great. We're training them. They're showing up to work every day, teaching, and they're getting that paycheck, and they can count on that. And so it's been this positive cycle of retention and growth in the teacher space, which is fun seeing that. But going on to the sustainability, so we've created 3 projects: a long-term beekeeping project for the village, where we're going to be rearing the bees there in the village and then importing the honey here in the U.S., selling into the U.S. market, but this is still a couple years out in that phase. We have a short-term project, or midterm. I think we have a picture of a sheep. There are sheep in the field, so there'll be wool production and young lambs that will be selling to the market. And then our short-term one, which I'm really excited about, is grain brokering. So we invested about $1,000 purchasing local millet, sorghum, and silage corn and selling it to the market. It's about a 2-month harvest window that we participated in. And with that $1,000, we turned $100 profit within the 2 months and employed 3 people for 3 months. So we created 3 jobs and we turned a profit that we were able to put back into the school. And it's really exciting. I see scaling this up to store the grain there on site and then selling into market fluctuations, potentially buying a truck, and really scaling this up, modeling it after the co-op system here in the U.S., and bringing in fertilizer, agricultural kind of consulting, helping increase the yield. So there's a lot of long-term potential, and to be able to turn the profit the first time, but kind of blew me away. We thought, hey, we'll give it a shot, see what happens, and so that's what we wanted to share the good news with you guys.
Right. You can figure out farming business things that I'm like, what? That's his job. Hey, thank you.
Okay.
So those are the updates from our different organizations around the world. We've got right here in Tustin and then all the way across the ocean, a little bit of everything in between. So whenever we talk about outreach, I always want to make sure that I end with some kind of invitation to be a part of it. And I know that this is a lot of information, a lot of different stuff going on, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, but it's really not that hard to be involved. You can just be praying for these organizations or a nation that's on your heart. But if you are interested in a specific ministry that you heard about today, or if you have a heart for one of the nations that you heard about, if you're interested in getting involved with Sunday Supper, just talk to any one of us. It's easy to jump in and we can talk more about the needs within the organizations if you'd like to be involved. But I also want to remind us too that living on mission doesn't always have to be this big international thing. As my mom has reminded me many times, why do you have to go to Africa? There are opportunities right in front of us. And so here's my 2-minute mini sermon on missions. The word for this year, whenever I think about missions and outreach, I just keep hearing this in my mind. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. Steward what we already have. Aaron had a word a few weeks ago, strengthen what remains, like for the whole church, but I think it applies to missions too. But God has given us a lot. And we want to be faithful with what we've been given, and then he'll give us more. And this is the verse that keeps coming to my mind. It's Luke 12:48. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And so God has entrusted us with ministries, with nations, with people right in front of us. And we want to be faithful to steward what he's given us. And as we're faithful and steward it well, he'll give us more. He'll entrust more to us. And so I want to end with just an invitation to a holiday outreach. That's that exactly. Just looking what's right in front of you. Who has God already given you? So this is my experiment. Okay, I don't know. To be honest, this could take off and be great, or this could flop. But I would always rather try an outreach experiment and fail than never try and not know. So this is what I want to do for the holiday season as we're getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I want us to look at who God has already given us, who's already in your path, who's in your neighborhood already, who's in your workplace already, who's the barista that you see every Friday when you get coffee at the same place, who's already in your path, who has some type of need. It could be a financial need. Maybe it's a family who doesn't have food for Thanksgiving, or money for gifts for their kids for Christmas. Or it could be a need of physical limitation. Someone needs help in their yard and they're not able, or they're lonely and they just need visitors. It could be any kind of need. But I want you to think about who God has already entrusted to you and put in your path who has some type of need. And what I would like you to do, if there's someone on your heart, nominate them to receive an act of lavish love from our church. What I love about Jesus was, yes, he preached to the crowds, but he also stopped for the one. And he loved the one so lavishly. And that was so beautiful that he did that. And we have an opportunity to do that. Because I'm thinking, imagine if I'm not a Christian, I don't know anything about Jesus, I'm feeling alone, I don't have money for a Thanksgiving dinner for my kids, and all of a sudden, a turkey and a bunch of food shows up at my doorstep. And someone, whoever nominates them, says, hey, this is from my church. My church doesn't know you, but they love you, and Jesus loves you. And so we just wanted to bless you with this. Like, what would that do to you? What would that communicate to you? And there's so many bad things being communicated about Christians and the church. And this is a chance to just lavishly love people. So if you have someone on your heart who's in need, come grab one of these papers from me after the service. Write down whatever information you can. The more detail, the better, so that we can figure out how to make this happen. And I'm not promising we'll be able to meet every request. It's within reason and within our ability to do it. But as requests come in, I'm going to present them back to you guys and say, hey, who can help with this? Who can help do this during the holidays? We want to go lavishly love so-and-so. Would you come with us? And we're going to be presenting the opportunities back to you. So are you guys up for trying this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to invite Aaron back up. I think we have a little more time. If you just want to reflect on that, maybe even be praying about God, who have you already put in front of me? Who have you given to me? Who I can love really well? Go ahead and do that, and we'll wrap up here in a moment.
Awesome. I also want to give a testimony. When I was 3 years old, my father passed away, so my mother was raising me all by herself, and she neurodivergent, widow, and really struggling in life, and we barely had enough food. Like I would have bean and cheese burritos on a good day, and bean burritos most of the time because you can't afford the cheese. So it was a really, really intense upbringing, and so I didn't have a lot of things, but I'll never forget hearing a knock at the door and somebody run and scurry down the stairs, and I couldn't catch up with them, but I saw there's just a bag and a present and full of food, full of treats, full of toys, and it would come every single year, and only to find out it was my next door neighbor who was a believer, and they started bringing me to church, and I literally changed my entire life. So they brought me into the church. I became the worship leader at 9 years old. I've been doing it ever since, and I have people. We have some of my songs have been translated into Swahili and sung different nations, and I just heard the other day that they're singing it in Mexico, some of my songs at a local church, and I've heard people use my music, and a little girl was raised from the dead in a car while they're driving in a car. They're playing my music and they're singing over a dead body, and she rose from the dead. Man, God can do a lot with one meal.
Amen.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I just want to invite you, if you would like prayer, we're going to have the prayer people come up to the side and you can go ahead and get prayer. Maybe you just need boldness and courage for this next season. Well, we have some people that are filled with the Holy Ghost with boldness and courage on them, and when they just pray for you, that boldness gets on you. So why don't you come up and get some? And then we just also want to thank you for joining online, and you can give your worship in the form of money to citygateoc.com if you're a part of this community. And there's a white box by the Jerusalem map on the way out if you want to give there. And we're going to have coffee in a few minutes. If you'd like to go get coffee, you're totally welcome. If you want to stay in a time of prayer and worship and ministry time, we're going to continue that right now. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it. Your love is relentless. Your love is relentless. Your love is relentless. Your love is relentless. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love